Namaskar, good morning, hello and welcome to the Quint, Hindi Quint, English Quint viewers. You have got the news that Government of India has banned 59 Chinese apps which are most popular in India, almost capturing 60-70% of mobile phone owners and the app users. This is a big economic retaliation, or it is a signaling that Indian government will come up with bigger actions. Just to understand the whole thing, we have invited Mr. Blaise Fernandes, who is with Gateway House. He is the director of the Gateway House and the board member, and he's a veteran on the subject. The Gateway House has come up with many such reports on Chinese investments. Mr. Fernandes, welcome and thank you for your time. Key question: how big is this move?
Morning, Sanjay. I think the news is very big because it's the first time the government of India has kind of gone with a very aggressive position in the current standoff between India and China. Was it expected? I think a few of us were expecting such a move because at the end of the day, we've actually hit their Achilles heel. And I'll explain to you why. Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, what is called the BAT companies, globally have north of $1,000 billion worth valuations. A lot of these valuations are based on these unicorns or these apps that are present and operating in around the globe. India is a very important market. Even in COVID, the India digital story has stood and has been strong based on the investments that we've seen coming in on the Jio platform and number of other platforms. And I think every investor in the world will be looking at any app from an India point of view also. So if you're not present in India, it affects your global standing, it affects your global valuations. Sanjay ji, I'd also like to add, right now, we've got a user base of 450 million who are in the age groups of 15 to 30, to potential demographic dividend, as they call it. By 2025, with internet penetration and cheap data and smartphone penetration, this will be an 850 million ecosystem. So for any investor in the world, if you're not present in India, the investor is going to ask you, why are you not present in India and how is it going to impact your earnings? I like to also kind of add to this. We've used section 69A of the IT Act 2000, but even WTO has enough of provision. So this is not an unilateral decision. This is a global decision. WTO has enough of provisions in their laws and bylaws and their charter that if there is border aggression, a country is free to kind of take all measures and precautions to secure itself. So, it's not only from an India point of view, it's also from a WTO point of view. Globally, this is an accepted norm.
Right. Mr. Fernandes, because it is very relatable product that every phone has these apps. So at mass level, it is well understood that government has made a very important statement how it wants to conduct its relationship with China. But how big is the economic hit on China? And the next logical step has to be hardware that has also penetrated in Indian markets, be it public sector, government agencies, private sector, in a deep manner. So this is more of a form, less of a substance. Is that right to say?
No, I'll answer the second question first. So if you actually see the United States of America in the last 8 weeks, they've been taking a lot of precautions to what they call ring fence their security assets. So if you are a government employee in America after a certain level, officer level or cadre, you cannot have certain Chinese apps. And I think TikTok is one of them. Okay. Getting back to your question, I think the government of India has taken a very calibrated decision, Sanjay ji. To start with, they've kept the economic activity apps out of the mix. So any app which originates from China has heavy Chinese investments, be it Baidu, be it Big Basket, be it Ola, okay? They've not touched those apps. And that's a good decision because common man gets affected, economic activity gets affected, and livelihoods get affected. What they focused on is the three different types of apps, which I classify and Gateways classifies as vanity apps. If TikTok is not present on your smartphone, it's not going to affect your livelihood. It may affect the livelihood of a few TikTok ambassadors, but TikTok's payments out of India and revenues out of India was 25 crores. So that's the economic impact that, this is the TikTok figures. They've also kind of got into the services apps. So Share It, if Share It is not available on the App Store, there are many alternatives to, Share It. So they've taken a calibrated decision. And lastly, they've looked at the strategic apps. For example, UC Browser is a very popular app. If you see UC Browser, if you go and check the history of the India-China of UC Browser, I can guarantee you, you've never read it, I never read it because it's uploaded from China. UC Browser's maps of India also look very different from Indian maps because it's a Chinese search engine, and there is enough of evidence to prove that it's been misused to push Chinese propaganda. Even in the border skirmishes that took place last week, what UC Browser was talking about was a Chinese story, and there was no Indian story. So these are the strategic apps, and I think the government has done well to ensure this. What are the financial implications? As I said in my opening comments, this is an important market. Valuations for these companies are also based. India may not be a big revenue earner today, but the potential to earn revenues 5, 6, 10 years from now is large. That's why you have Facebook. That's why you have a number of global companies, not only US companies. You've got the Saudi Arabian funds investing in the digital story in India. You've got the UAE funds. You've got a lot of the global funds investing. So I think the impact of the India digital story on these Chinese apps will be felt worldwide. Lastly, the best classic example that can give you for impact of economic impact, TikTok is going in for an IPO during the course of the year per various reports in Wall Street Journal and leading publications. The valuation is $100 billion. There's a 13% usage base in India. Every investor is going to ask, how is this going to impact your earnings and your future earnings? So that's an example of an economic impact.
Agree. I have one question only to get your perspective on that, because you have come up with many reports. There have been many other think tanks globally in India. The stakeholders who are in the technology businesses, they have been warning about the dangers and the real serious security risk if we allow all of these things in India. But last many years, last 3-4 years, despite all these red flags, there was a supportive and enabling atmosphere to allow these apps to be promoted here, and everyone aligned with it. Now, suddenly, why we have woken up? Just because something happened on the border, and it was a very important step, it was a precipitate situation. But didn't we make mistakes in not realizing the danger it posed earlier?
I think the government was aware of it. I'm not saying that they were not aware of it, but to use ITI Act 69A is a harsh step, and it only will be used in national emergency. Had they used it earlier, had they kind of, bought regulatory ring fences earlier, there would also been an uproar, freedom of speech, and all these debates would have come to the fore. At the end of the day, they bought it at the right time. It is the opportune time to bring it. And I think it is also important to kind of, one is you've kind of banned certain apps, but there are certain apps which still have Chinese investments who can trace back to China, Sanjay ji. And I think now needs to ring fence this. To start with, they must ensure that particular officers above, be it in the defense establishments, be it in the paramilitary forces, be it in the bureaucracy, or even the judiciary, I think they should kind of ring fence it and say that certain apps cannot be used by certain officers in the government for security reasons. Another thing is data centers. I think it's important to ensure that these data centers come up across India, because if there's a situation in Tamil Nadu which warrants immediate action, by the time Delhi reacts and the Tamil Nadu cybersecurity gets involved, it's a time lapse. These are 24/7, 365 days operations. So if you are an app operator in India from China or from any part of the world, you've got to keep data centers in each state with direct connectivity to the local police who understand local nuances. Because if something is taking place in Odisha and the data center is in Delhi, the chances are you will not get the local nuances. So we've got to take enough of precautions, as I use the word ring fencing ourselves, to ensure that the apps are not misused or there is no possibility of communal disharmony or political strife created by the misuse of this app.
Yeah, very well explained. Another point I wanted to understand from you is this, that we may decide to calibrate and decide the timing of these steps and make sure that our financial systems and our consumers, users do not face any disruption. But till you heard Alibaba or Tencent or Ant Financials, China won't get a message. And the hardware penetration in various Indian activities are far wide and deep. How do we tackle that?
Okay, to start with, I think the hardware is a challenge, but if the apps are not embedded in the hardware, then your hardware is actually, insignificant. It's only the apps embedded in the hardware that can actually transmit data or transmit sensitive information. So if you've kind of, it's like wearing a mask, it's a precaution from COVID, but it's not a guaranteed profession. So they've taken the first step of kind of ring fencing. Hardware will always be a challenge, Sanjayji, until and unless we build up our own capacity. And at the end of the day, all these are temporary measures. But till we hit that 5, 7, 10 trillion dollar economy, we will never be able to match up with China. What we've right now done is hit their Achilles heels, and I'm sure they'll recalibrate their strategies and come up with another strategy. The other big issue I think that needs to be discussed, I think it's time for everybody to debate this, is 5G. Is 5G is at our doorstep, if it's already in the house, okay? And I think that kind of hardware needs to be kind of looked at very, very cautiously.
So do you expect that the complete ban, no to Huawei and ZTE is in offing now?
I think that's the next logical step, because I think at the end of the day, the fight for the next century is going to be 5G. So whether it's going to be 5G emanating from the Atlantic Alliance, is going to be from the Chinese side, I think that's going to be the next big step. And I think to be fair, I think India's got a lot of levers to pull. One is the valuations of these backed apps, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. The other thing is the 2 5G operators in China who are very keen on the Indian market. And I think the India digital story is the story that the Indian administration should leverage at every given point of time.
And to leverage enabling rules, regulations, and capital raising environment is very much needed. Give us some sense how enabling our regulations are. We hear many stories of great startups, and in all these activities where these Chinese apps have been banned, some small little app exists, but to scale up, they need capital, and it is very, very, very cumbersome to get capital easily. It will take 1 year or 2 years from now, going by the current regulations.
Sanjayji, great question. And I will quote Martha Vestager, the former commissioner in the European Union, because the EU also had a similar problem at the beginning of the pandemic, where they saw a lot of Chinese investment entering strategic areas. And what she said, it's time that the states start cutting check from their checkbooks and their treasury to build up an ecosystem, because until and unless there's available, okay, you're never going to, there's always going to be paucity of capital. And I think we should take that advice seriously, because coming from a very seasoned professional who's actually seen, Martha Vestager has actually seen the app economy evolve, and she's monitored it closely. Our Navratnas have a lot of capital. And it's time that our Navratnas kind of come to the party and encourage an ecosystem that will create the Indian unicorns with Indian money. And I think, that's the paradigm shift that needs to happen.
That's a great suggestion, that Indian Navratnas should now diversify and change their outlook for the newer world. Now, in the current immediate context, vis-a-vis Chinese companies, the immediate beneficiaries will be US companies. Where are Indian startups left? Are there enough companies to grab newer opportunities, and what are these newer opportunities?
No, there will always be opportunity, Sanjayji. At the end of the day, this is a big market. We have demographic dividend. We have 850 million. There'll be local opportunities. There'll be national opportunities. There'll be apps that will just be serving a particular area in Madhya Pradesh. There'll be apps that will be serving the entire country. You have US investments coming into India. You've got Indian markets which are now well capitalized to kind of cash in the opportunities that are available. And it's just that one company who's getting capitalized. There are a number of Indian entities who are raising capital. So it is time for them to come to the party. And I think it's important for the government also to create an ecosystem and an atmosphere to kind of encourage investment. So, there are a lot of impediments in terms of, taxation and structural challenges. And I think the government should kind of use this as an opportunity to kind of ensure and inculcate a culture where it's easy for an Indian entrepreneur who has the capital to invest in these startups.
Yeah, it will be great if you can really elaborate a bit on these impediments when you speak about approvals and taxations and valuation rules.
Small tax. So a small example. I think the whole debate was on the startup tax. I can't get the right name. You might have to help me here. But if a startup sells his shares, there's a tax component he's got to pay. It was addressed, but is it fully addressed? I'm not too sure whether it is fully addressed. So in the startup ecosystems, there are going to be a number of challenges in terms of valuations, in terms of taxation on those valuations to simplify it. I think that needs to be addressed. That creates an entire ecosystem for people to put money in startups and to ensure that that there's enough of money coming to startups. The moment you're going to tax that, angel taxation and a number of plethora, so a number of taxation, the number of hurdles need to be looked at. And I think if those hurdles are removed. The second thing is, I think we're not kind of given enough of emphasis to academia. And at the end of the day, the government has to encourage an ecosystem where industry is talking to the IITs, industry is talking to the IIMs, industry is talking to the Indian Institute of Sciences. We've got some fabulous brain power there. We've got to create that fertile ecosystem where everybody's coming together. Lastly, patents. I think at the end of the day, the backbone of Atmanirbhar Bharat is going to be on creativity. Creativity is nothing. Creativity and innovation is nothing but patents and copyrights. Protect the copyright holder. Protect the patent holder. I'm a professor. I have a patent. I'm afraid to go to the market and file. The simple reason is I don't know what the tax implications will be. I don't know what the various implications will be. We need to create an atmosphere where people want to create patents and create patents that are relevant. There's no point creating patents which are irrelevant. Create patents that are relevant to the Indian market. So we've got to create that entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
Kind of be resilient. It's not going to be only investments, it's also ecosystem.
There are many things which are in pipeline in terms of data, privacy, localization of data, rules and government. India doesn't have any clear latest modern rules around these things. That is something everyone is waiting for. We cannot pick and choose कि चाइना से हमको खतरा है लेकिन वही डेटा अगर अमेरिकन कंपनी के पास है तो वो सेफ है. And we have to be very clear. Then once government has started addressing these issues, all these urgent areas have to be understood also, that your data has to be safe and secured in our national boundaries. What do you say to that?
Sanjayji, as I written in a blog for Gateway House a few weeks ago, the India stories, India digital story COVID resistant. My first point in that blog was we've got to build capacity. Technology changes by the minute, changes by the week, changes by the hour. At our institutes in Bhopal for judiciary, in Mussoorie for the IAS, in Hyderabad for the IPS, and in Nagpur for the IRM, we've got to ensure that there's capacity building to start with at the basic level. So our lawmakers and law enablers are in the loop of what's happening. We've also got to kind of look at the European Union, who is reinventing the wheel on data protection, on privacy all the time. So I think there are some good lessons to be learned there. We've got to ensure that the word that is being commonly used in America, the Amazonization of the American economy. We might have to make sure that we don't have Amazonization of India or over-reliance on one particular company. So I think the important thing for the Indian regulators and Indian Parliament is to ensure that there's a level playing field. Once you have a level playing field, that's the first step towards self-reliance. That's the first steps towards innovation. That's the first steps towards a lot of things.
Right. My understanding is very basic, like a layman, but I also want to understand from you that those critical players in India, which are Indian companies where some shareholding of Chinese companies exist, be it Paytm, Zomato, Big Basket, Byju's, etc., how it will impact them, and because government will have to kind of deleverage these investments here also. So what do you foresee?
First and foremost, I think the Chinese investments in these companies like Paytm, Ola, Big Basket, Zomato, they're not going to pull them out because of this one particular move. At the end of the day, it's a survival battle. So those investments are...
We can force them to dilute and other can buy.
They can do that, but why should they do that if the data is stored in India? As I said, important thing is please ensure there are enough of ring fences to ensure that your data is secure, the data cannot be misused, and the apps cannot be misused. So at the end of the day, I think the government has taken a very calibrated decision on keeping the economic activity apps outside the purview of these 52. They will be banned in the months to come, but I think they will not be the economic activity apps. And I don't think the government of India is keen on asking these Chinese investments to kind of dilute their investments. And I don't think Chinese investors want to kind of dilute their investments because of the potential of the India digital story.
Right. Again, one question I asked you, but I want to repeat because you can give me some specific sense. If this market is vacated by these Chinese apps, are there enough decent size or potentially nice companies to occupy these spaces? For example, one name we hear is ShareChat, which is an Indian company with some Chinese investments. Will they have greater opportunities? And are there many more specific companies, if you can give some sense about what is happening in Bangalore or Gurgaon or Noida?
Sanjay, today what happens is all these apps survive based on investments and what they call burn money, the kind of money that they have to kind of do the land grab and to kind of capture more users. If Chinese investments withdraw from India, I am confident that there are enough of Indian investors who have enough of cash on their books to step up to the party. It's just that we need to create a culture to take risk. We need to create a culture of entrepreneurship. And for that culture to prevail, we've got structural changes, which we've discussed at the early part of our program.
So when you say that there are enough Indian companies to support such activities, do I also then get it right that the existing VCs, they are so heavily invested that they are currently focused on their existing investments and they do not have enough money to fund these venture capital, these new activities, and we have to wait for new players to arrive?
So throughout this discussion, we've been focusing on Chinese investments. There's also the European investments. There are also investments from the United States. These are countries with the rule of law. These are countries where where the state ends, where the enterprise begins. In China, one doesn't know where the party begins, where the party ends, where the government begins, the government ends, and where the business begins and the business ends. So, why are we fixated that China is the only party and the only game in town? I think India can attract a lot of investments from Silicon Valley. We should be looking at that. But also India can attract, Sanjayji, a lot of investments from Europe. And in Europe, there are a number of entrepreneurs who are what they call privately held companies. You never hear of them. You never see them in the media. You never see them. But in Italy has a few companies. Sweden has a few companies. And Germany has a few companies. These are multi-billion-dollar enterprises. I think in the new normal, India would be well advised to restart its EU dialogue. India would be well advised to make a number of trips to Europe to trap these companies. In Germany, there are mid-sized companies what they call the MSME sector, which actually runs into a few billions of dollars in terms of valuation turnovers. Those people can be attracted, can be kind of,
So
India could be attracted to them.
yeah. So this is very encouraging when you say that Indian money is available, European money can come in, and there is a huge talent, and Indian academia can play a great role. And you have given a wish list also. If I were to ask last question, which is, we have everything possible, but the only issue is the enabling environment. So on the index of 1 to 10, where are we currently, and how many steps we have to cover to do that, and how much time it will take?
Time, it depends on the urgency of the government. I always believe any government, if they want to do something, we've seen it time and again. 1991, if they wanted to do something, time is not the issue. The government has the mandate, it has the numbers. The government has the political will to kind of create this atmosphere. The government has to engage with think tanks, has to build capacity, has to engage with academia to create the right environment, to foster a culture of innovation. Innovation is nothing but copyright and patents. Protect copyright and patents. Come up with a tax regime which is not draconian. At the end of the day, tax is a big deterrent for an investor. I can make 10x profits, 100x profits, but if the tax regime is opaque and if the tax regime is draconian, it deters everybody, no matter what it is. So I think tax is a huge thing that the government has to focus on. And lastly, I think we need to kind of have outreach now with Europe and USA, especially Europe, because there are a lot of potential investors from Europe who can look at India because of our demographic dividend, the potential to be the thing. But lastly, most important, Sanjay ji, the day we become a 5, 7, $10 trillion economy, most of the issues that we've discussed on this program resolve on its own. So
absolutely. Very, very incisive and insightful perspective from you, Mr. Blaise Fernandes. बस मुझे यही कहना है अपने दर्शकों से, वो ये कि 59 ऐप्स बैन हो गए, एक सिग्नल मिल गया सरकार का, लेकिन जैसा मिस्टर फर्नांडिस ने समराइज किया कि पॉलिटिकल विल चाहिए, जो कड़े और ड्रैकोनियन कानून है उनका खात्मा होना चाहिए, और इसके अलावा सिंपलर रूल्स होने चाहिए जिसमें टैलेंट फ्लरिश हो, इनोवेशन फ्लरिश हो, और ये काम कितने वक्त में होगा इसका अंदाज लगा पाना बहुत मुश्किल है। और जैसा कि उन्होंने आखिरी बात कही कि हम किसी मुकाबले में, किसी मुठभेड़ में टिक पाए, इसके लिए अभी हमको 5-7 ट्रिलियन डॉलर की इकोनॉमी बनने की जरूरत है। इमीडिएट टर्म्स में ध्यान दीजिएगा, 19 ट्रिलियन डॉलर का अमेरिका, 12 ट्रिलियन डॉलर का चाइना, उसके सामने 2 ट्रिलियन की इकोनॉमी पर इस वक्त भारत खड़ा हुआ है, और जिस तरह के चैलेंजिंग एनवायरनमेंट में खड़ा हुआ है अपने पड़ोसी देश के साथ, वहां पर सिंबोलिज्म से, फॉर्म में ज्यादा सब्सटेंस में कम वाले कदमों से काम नहीं चलेगा। यही निचोड़ था हमारी इस बातचीत का। मिस्टर फर्नांडिस, बहुत शुक्रिया, आपसे हम फिर बात करेंगे।
थैंक यू संजय जी, थैंक यू।